Bluegrass Jam Along is proud to be sponsored by Collins Guitars and Mandolins, each and every one built from the sound up in Austin, Texas. Hi, this is Matt, and you're listening to Bluegrass Jam Along, the podcast for anyone and everyone who loves bluegrass. Hey everybody, welcome back to Bluegrass Jam Along. This is your Bluegrass Briefing for Monday the 7th of April 2025. And first, before we kick off, just wanted to say thank you to people who sent messages in. I mentioned on the podcast last week that my dad died recently, which is why there's not been a huge amount of content these past few weeks. And some people got in touch to say very nice things, and I really appreciate that. So thank you to everybody who did that. I won't name you all, you know who you are, but thanks. Getting back at it with the content, I may not have a full episode this week, but I have an interview this week, and then I'm lining them up, and there's stuff coming. So thank you for your patience while I've sort of got through a few bits and pieces, but I am back on the podcast now, and there's stuff coming your way. If you missed it, recent stuff included a great chat with Sierra Hull about a Tiptoe High Wire, and a really fun chat with David Grissman about 35 years of his acoustic disc record label. So go and check those out if you missed them. But let's crack on. First up is news and announcements, which is the section we call Church Street News. And in the news this week, first up is Earl Scruggs Music Festival, which is August 29th to 31st at Mill Spring in North Carolina. As you'd expect, loads of fantastic stuff going on there. Del McCoury Band, Alison Krauss and Union Station, who else? Sam Bush, Nitty Gritty Dirt Band, Sierra Hull, Watch House, Earls of Leicester, Tony Trishka's Earl Jam, Sister Sadie, John Hartford Fiddle Tune Project, all sorts of great stuff going on there. That sounds like a fantastic lineup. So go get your tickets for the Earl Scruggs Music Festival. I will stick a link in the show notes. As always, something I would love to go to if I lived a little bit closer, which I don't. Poor me, etc., etc. Go and get your tickets and enjoy. Next up, Steel Drivers, 20th anniversary this year, and they've announced their new record, Outrun, which is coming out at the end of May on Sun Records, and there's a single from that out already, which I've put in the Grass Is Mostly New playlist. Go and have a listen to that. So congratulations to them on 20 years. That's amazing. Newer band, Ezra, have got a new record coming on the 9th of May called Froggy's Demise, and that's the band that includes Jacob Jolliffe and Max Allard, who seem to release a new record every few months. They are extraordinarily prolific, and I've had a quick listen. I really like what I've heard so far. I will remind you about that in a few weeks when the actual record is out. But yeah, another album from Ezra on the way. And then a really interesting project I saw some details of earlier in the week. It is not out yet. It will be out in September, but it's a book from the University of North Carolina Press, and it's a collaboration between Christina Gaddy and Rhiannon Giddens. As you know, if you've listened to the podcast for a while, Christina's been on a couple of times chatting about her book about the history of the banjo. Great writer, fascinating guest on the podcast, and really interesting collaboration with Rhiannon, this one. It's called Go Back and Fetch It, Recovering Early Black Music in the Americas for Fiddle and Banjo. And it's a book that picks 20 tunes ranging from 60 and 80s through to the 1850s, and they explore the stories behind each song and also notate them in kind of modern music notation and banjo tab. Just a kind of an overview of that extraordinary journey of music from the Caribbean across the Americas, and telling the story as they go. I'm looking forward to seeing more details about that when it comes out. That sounds absolutely fascinating. I will give you a shout about that one a bit nearer the time. It is due in September, as I say. But yes, Go Back and Fetch It, Recovering Early Black Music in the Americas for Fiddle and Banjo from Rhiannon Giddens and Christina Gaddy. Sounds fantastic. That is it for your news and announcements. Let's move on to The Grass Is New. And as I'm sure you all know, The Grass is New is where we talk about new releases. And there's a couple of bits. Tim O'Brien and Jan Fabricius have a new single out called Lonesome Armadillo, which I've put in the playlist. Go and have a listen. That is in the Grass is Mostly New Spotify playlist. There's a link in the show notes. Go and check that out and follow it for lots of new music. But yeah, Tim and Jan have got a new full-length project called Paper Flowers, which is due out in June this year. And Lonesome Armadillo is the first single from that, so go and check that out. Also, I mentioned on the podcast a couple of weeks ago that Cameron Nola had a new record come in, and there was a single out from that, but the record is now out, called CRK. And I love Cameron's playing. It's, you know, it's just soulful and something kind of, it's got a kind of historic quality to it, if that makes sense. Maybe it doesn't, I don't know, but it sounds old and it sounds new and it sounds kind of deep and it sounds fresh, and I always enjoy listening to him. So go and check out Cameron Nola's new record, CRK. There's something from that in the playlist too. Those are your new releases for this week: Tim O'Brien and Jan Fabricius single and Cameron Nola's new album. Let's move on to Scroll On Buddy. And Scroll On Buddy is the thing where I've spotted something on social media and thought if you hadn't spotted it, you might like it too. And there's a video, Billy Strings and Sierra Hull did something for the Austin City Limits 50th celebration. And there's a video up on YouTube of them doing Midnight on the Stormy Deep, which I loved. They're both great. I don't think I've seen them do anything together before, so that's really cool. So I've stuck a link in the show notes to YouTube for you to go and watch that, and I would very much recommend you do. And the final bit, it feels like quite a short briefing this week. Yes, but anyway, the final bit is the In My Ears This Week bit, and I've been listening to Julia Bell, which is Volume 2 of the John Hartford Fiddle Tune project. It came out a few weeks ago, and I mentioned it on the podcast. But it's brilliant. I'm talking to Katie Hartford Hogue about that record this week for an episode on the podcast next week. I'm really looking forward to that. But it's a really, really good record. It's a really cool mix of tunes with a few songs as well. And just been getting a bit lost in it and just really enjoying it. It is fantastic. So do go and listen to that. There's some stuff from that in the playlist as well. But there's a chat coming about that album next week, which I'm very much looking forward to. But that is it for this week. What else? Nothing really. BluegrassJamAlong.com, chord sheets, lists of interviews. There are so many interviews now. If you are new to the podcast and you're wondering what there is, sometimes it can get a bit overwhelming and can tire out your finger, to be frank. Scrolling through the list of stuff on your phone, looking for old interviews to see what there is. You might miss something. Go to BluegrassJamAlong.com, head to the interviews pages, and there is an entire list there of all the stuff that's been out. You can listen to them on the website, but you can also then go and know what you're looking for on your podcast apps. So it is all there. That is it. I will see you next time. Have a great week and happy picking. Bluegrass Jam Along is proud to be sponsored by Collins Guitars and Mandolins, each and every one built from the sound up in Austin, Texas.